Well, hello and welcome to everybody joining us here today, whether you're live or you're listening to the replay. Thank you so much for being all about how to build a dynamic social media plan. I'm Rebekah Radice, Chief Marketing Officer with Post Planner, and I am joined today by Katie Lance. And Katie, along with being a dear friend, is a keynote speaker, the CEO of Katie Lance Consulting, and the founder of Get Social Smart, a training and educational community committed to helping you get smarter about how you use social media. And Katie is here today to do exactly that, to help us get smarter on social media. So thank you, Katie. I am so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Rebekah. I'm just thrilled to be here today. We're going to have a lot of fun.
We have been talking about this for months, and social media strategy and putting a plan in place is really your area of expertise. And so for us to be able to draw from that and learn from that, I know we have a ton to get through. So just real quick, we do have a hashtag for today. It is viral webinar. So feel free to tweet out everything that Katie's sharing today. You can mention at Rebekah Radice, at Post Planner, and then at Katie Lance. We keep it pretty simple for you. All right, so you are in the absolute right place today. If you are ready to learn where to spend your time on social media, how to choose the right channels, because I know that can be especially confusing, how to optimize your social networks, the best kept secrets for hot content, and then 7 lessons to keep it real on social media. And then you're going to want to stick around until the end. Katie has been kind enough to offer a free surprise, and we have one for you as well. And then an offer you are absolutely not going to be able to refuse. So we're going to be with you for about, 57 minutes here, Katie, and share a ton of content. So looking forward to hearing what that great surprise is at the end.
I'm excited. We're fired up.
Let's do it. Yes, we are. All right. So 65% of adults now use social networking sites. That just blows my mind that is nearly a tenfold jump in the past decade. And I know that we feel crazy busy and just torn in so many different directions, Katie, but to see how the frequency has picked up and the usage has picked up over time just really says to me more and more that it's not enough to just be on social media. It's not enough to just know that you've got to be on Facebook or on Twitter. You have to be strategic. And to do that, you really need to put a plan in place. And I think what so many people struggle with is you need to be there, you need a plan, but you have no idea where to begin. And I think the overwhelm is that, and the fear might be the two biggest culprits in keeping us from moving forward. And so we're going to eliminate those barriers today, correct?
Absolutely. It's an important conversation.
Yeah, so why don't you kick us off with, I know you like to kind of take us a couple of steps back and have us look backwards before we move forwards.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I always try to do, especially when I'm sitting down to work with some of our new clients, is to do what's called a social media audit. And the word audit is always a little scary for anybody. We always think the worst. But I think anybody, whether you're a small business owner or, larger organization looking to ramp up your social media strategy, really I think the number one thing before you think about, should I be on Facebook? Should I be Snapchatting? Should I be, doing Facebook Live? Is to take a step back and to really run an audit. And what I recommend is you look through everything. Look at your Facebook, your LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere where you're at on social media, and review how you're managing your online brand on each social network. And really, take a deep dive through, are your links working? Do you have your contact information? And a lot of times what happens is companies will set it and forget it. And it's by no fault of them, especially if they're a small business owner. They're managing, multiple things. But that's really kind of the first step is where are their holes, where are their gaps, what's going right, and then where are there opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, such great points, especially the set it and forget it, which I think was a mentality that so many got told back in the early days of social media was all you have to do is set it up and then walk away and it's just going to automatically bring all these people to you.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
especially if you've set it up a while ago, and I always like to even for myself, and I'm in the business of social media at least once a year, looking at all of my platforms and just making sure that we're up to date, we're consistent. Things change, that you've got that information up there. And really the second big thing is to gain that focus and clarity. And I'm just a big believer, as I know you are, Rebecca, is to think about why are you using each social network and how are they supporting your business? It's not just taking one piece of content and blasting it in 20 different platforms. It's thinking about what's the benefit to each network and what are the ones that are going to make the most use out of your business. And I'm a big believer in that you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be all things to all people. But if you're going to pick one or two or maybe even three or four social networks, thinking about the why and what your message, what your voice is on each platform makes a really big difference. Now, of course, the other thing to think about when we think about a social media audit, many times we have these sort of abandoned social networks that are out there where, maybe we set it up a long time ago and we haven't really thought a whole lot about it since, or maybe we forgot about it. So this is sort of part of this whole social media audit process is thinking about, are there profiles that were created a long time ago and you've either forgot about or they've been abandoned and neglected? And I'm a big believer that it's way better to not have a presence on a social network than have something that's completely outdated or the last time you posted was 3 years ago. So you want to make sure you clean that up before you move forward into creating a social media strategy.
I don't think very many people think about this one, the abandoned social networks and what that looks like when somebody's Googling your name or your
Right.
business and finding all of these social networks that are just ghost towns.
Right. And honestly, I see this all the time. I tend to see this. I don't know if you see this a lot, but I see it a lot on Twitter where someone has set up a Twitter account or maybe they hired an assistant to set up a Twitter account for them many moons ago. And either it's completely abandoned or there's just this automatic feed that somehow is set up and there's nothing real that's happening there. So just important to do
Absolutely.
that. And then obviously the next part is, once you've looked at all of your social media platforms, you figured out, what's your why, what's your goal, how do things look, is really looking through your goal alignment and looking back at your goals and really deciding why do you want to be on social media? Is it to drive traffic? Is it to drive leads, to drive business, drive sales, brand recognition, all of the above, and making sure each profile is really in line with your business goals and objectives. And what I find is that when businesses are on multiple platforms and they're doing them right, each platform is going to have a different component to that business goal. So maybe Twitter is more of a customer service channel, whereas Instagram is more of a brand building, and maybe Snapchat is more of a behind the scenes peek. And all of those when they work together can really kind of get you on the right track for your goals. But that's really the first step is what do you want to accomplish and what are your goals behind where you want to be. And then really the next step is evaluating your performance. So look at your current performance compared to a year ago. And there's so many great tools that are out there, Facebook Insights, Google Analytics, Twitter Analytics, and you're able to look at engagement, referral traffic, what are those opportunities. And it's easy to kind of, get caught up in all the numbers. So, I always recommend pick a couple analytics. I think engagement is one of the best, measures of traffic, especially with Facebook Insights. I love looking at my Facebook Insights. And this is just a quick tip. If you haven't done this on your business page in a long time, make sure you go to your Facebook Insights and you click on that button that says posts, where you can see your posts, and then you can sort your posts by engagement. So instead of just seeing, the last 50 posts that you've posted on Facebook, you can sort and see, well, what are my top 5 posts? What are the things that people are commenting and liking on the most? And then post more of that. And especially on Facebook where organic traffic is really, really low, it's really hard to get that engagement without, doing a lot of Facebook advertising. Looking at your analytics, especially on Facebook, can make a huge, huge difference. So choosing your channels, as I mentioned, it's one thing to say, oh, I want to be on Snapchat because everyone's on Snapchat, or, okay, I think I have to be on Facebook because I think everyone's on Facebook. It's important to really ask yourself a few questions. There's really kind of 4 questions that I like to look at when you're thinking about which platforms make the most sense for you and your business. So the first one is, what social networks is your audience actively using? And I think one piece of advice, and I'm sure, Rebekah, you probably agree with me here, is that don't assume. I think a lot of times we assume, oh, my audience isn't on XYZ. My audience, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Instagram, they're not on, whatever platform is of choice. And you just never know. I mean, I said that about Snapchat probably 6 months ago. I thought, oh, Snapchat's just for a bunch of kids, right? And surprisingly, as I started to ask some of my clients and some of my prospects, I found that more and more were active on Snapchat. So I think, a simple tip is just ask. Ask some of your recent clients or customers, people that you've recently done business with, which social networks are they actively using? Facebook is still primarily the #1 social media platform, but, we're seeing, other platforms like Snapchat and Periscope and Twitter and all these other platforms definitely have their place. So that's really kind of first and foremost.
Well, in the asking, I know you have kind of a simple plan around that too. And you don't have to make it difficult or complicated to reach out and do exactly that. Just ask, are you spending your time on Facebook? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Snapchat? Because we hear that almost every day, that pushback of, oh no, my audience isn't over on Twitter. They're just not interested. And then they're really surprised when
Right.
see that, oh, wait a second, I should have been on Twitter a long time ago. So yeah, it's putting
Right.
those assumptions aside.
Absolutely. And I'll also say, you want to be careful of where you ask this question. So if you ask that question on Facebook, your answer is probably going to be Facebook. If you ask it on Twitter,
Good
right?
point.
So I recommend, if you're going to ask that question, ask it through email. We find that that's typically the best way to do it. And you can set up, we love using Google Forms. It's a free tool with Google to be able to, just sort of poll your audience, kind of assess if you have a couple simple questions. And maybe once or twice a year, it's a great opportunity to kind of say, we would love to hear from you. What networks are you actively on? We want to make sure we're serving you the best way possible. And whether it's just a simple email or using a Google form, great way to ask a question through email.
Well, and I love the idea of you're making it all about them. So you're always consistently going back and polling your audience, but polling in a way that they understand that you want to serve them. You want to meet
Right.
their needs.
Right. Exactly. It's not just, hey, what's one more way that I can, spam you?
Right.
How can I serve you better?
Right.
So the next question is, what platforms align with the type of content that you share? And I think this is really important. So, I'm a big believer of having kind of what I call this pillar pieces of content, right? These pieces of content that you spend a lot of time and energy in. And for us, it's our blog. We write at least one blog post once a week, and then everything sort of stems from that. So we do a lot of content on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Facebook Live, Facebook pages. We do a lot, Twitter, things like that. But you want to think about what platforms align with the type of content that you share. So if you are, a writer, what does that content look like? How does that get translated into, maybe tweets or Instagram shares? Or if you do video content, if you are creating a video show once a week or once a month, how does that align with your goals? So, maybe it's, shortening a short clip that also gets shared on Instagram, or Vine. And really kind of thinking through that whole process of what platforms align with really the type of content that you share. And then I also think what platforms are most appropriate for your industry. So, depending on what your industry is, if it's, a little bit more button up, if it's a little bit more fun and quirky, all of that kind of comes into play. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about personas as we kind of get through this webinar, but sort of thinking through your tone and what is the average audience person, what do they like in a lot of ways. And, for me, I work with a lot of people in the real estate industry. So real estate's a very visual market. We see a lot of, beautiful pictures of homes and front doors and backyard barbecues and things like that. And that may not be appropriate for another industry. So, just thinking through which platforms, which ones are the most appropriate for your industry, your voice, and who you're trying to reach.
I think a really important point that you have talked about in the past is not just looking at your friends and everybody that's around you on social media and thinking, well, if that works for them, it's going to work for me, and turning your social media into a cookie cutter because you're just kind of following the leader. It's important to really know, is it appropriate and does it make sense for your industry?
Absolutely. Yep. And I like to look outside my industry too. I think it's great to look and see what other brands and companies, what are they doing? And it's kind of fun to be creative and sort of think outside the box as well. And then the other big question, which I think sometimes we don't place as much value on, but I think this is really important, is what platforms do you like spending time on? For some people, they download Snapchat and they're like, oh, this is just ridiculous. I don't know how to use it. I'm not going to use it, right? And that's totally fine. And other people just really gravitate toward it. Same thing with Periscope. I remember jumping on Periscope a year ago and I just loved it. I totally fell in love with it. And other people, it's not their thing. And so that's a big part of it. You want to have this nice balance of where are your customers at, where are your prospects at, your clients at. But the other flip side of that is, what platforms do you like spending time on? And the only way you're going to know if you like it or not is by actively trying it. So if you haven't done this for a while, I would encourage anyone who's, thinking about their social media strategy to spend a little bit of time. Maybe it's on a, Saturday night while you're watching a movie and you're sitting in front of the TV and you've got your phone in front of you and, play around with Instagram, or Facebook or Twitter, and just kind of try it out and see which ones really resonate with you and which ones maybe not as much.
Well, and I think I think you can start to feel that tug of, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, do I have to get on Facebook or do I have to get on Instagram? I think that's a pretty telling sign when it's something that you're constantly fighting against because you just don't enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, it's not sustainable.
Right, exactly. Yep. And I think the flip side of that too is I think a lot of people feel that tug because they don't have a system or a strategy in place. So they wake up every day going, what am I supposed to post? I know I'm supposed to do something today, and that's sort of the flip side too. When you have a strategy, which we're going to talk about today, and you have a plan and for the next few weeks, what's going to happen. Obviously things change and things come up, but it just takes this weight off your shoulders versus, I got to post something. What am I going to post today?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's where so many people are, is in that kind of flux state where they've been using social media for quite some time. They know that they need to be there. There's, no lack of buy-in, I think, at this point by all of us. It's just, okay, how do I run my business? How do I do everything I need to do to generate income and yet still manage social media? And that's where I guess the rubber meets the road, and you're going to talk about systems and how important they are and how to get those in place.
Absolutely. So I think one thing that's really important is to look at your social networks and optimize your social networks, which to me means really looking at your content and making your content as shareable as possible and learning from what's been really effective in the past. So I mentioned this a second ago, but really taking the time to look at your Facebook Insights. I look at my Facebook Insights once a week, and this is something that I started doing probably within the last, I would say, 6 months. In the past, I would look, once a month, every other month. Like it wasn't very consistent. And now once a week, when I sit down to schedule out some of our Facebook content, which we're going to talk about in a minute, part of my routine is I look at my Facebook Insights, because what was true a week ago may not be true today. So what's been effective in the past, especially in the recent past, and then making your content really shareable. So when I think about, if I have one piece of content, that content might get shared on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, multiple social networks. But the key, and I know, Rebekah, you're a huge believer in that, is tweaking that content to make it work for each network, right? So Facebook might be short and sweet, maybe kind of conversational. Instagram might be similar, but you're going to add 5 or 10 hashtags. Twitter, you're going to maybe edit the photo to be a little bit more Twitter-esque, if you will. And again, taking that one piece of content, slicing and dicing it 10 different ways to make it as optimal as possible. So someone will retweet it or will reshare it on Instagram or share it out on Facebook. And it's a small thing, but it makes a really big difference. We work so hard to create content. It's that extra step. You've gone 90% of the way to create a great piece of content. Take that extra 10% and just make sure it's optimized for each of the platforms that you decide you want to be a part of. So we're going to go through some of the different social media platforms. Facebook, I know, Rebekah, we could do, I don't know, 3 days just on Facebook.
Yes, a mini seminar.
Exactly. Yeah. But Facebook is, for as much as stayed the same, Facebook has definitely changed a lot over the last few years. And, to me, I think there's two sides of Facebook. There's the personal side of Facebook and there's the business side. And especially if you're a small business owner, I think there's opportunities to take advantage of both. I think on the personal side, if you are in a business where you are able to connect with your customers and your clients on a personal level, again, I go back to real estate because a lot of realtors are friends with their clients. Being able to use your personal profile to be really intentional and to create things like private Facebook lists where you can really connect one-on-one with your clients, not necessarily the 500 people in your news feed, makes a big difference on Facebook on a personal level. And on a business level with business pages, having a strategy where you are there consistently. Consistency makes a huge difference, as well as putting the time and energy into creating great content. And, one thing I'll mention about Facebook right now in 2016, Facebook Live is so hot right now. And I know you've probably noticed this too, Rebekah. But, if you're looking for ways to garner attention, engagement, traffic to your website, sales, Facebook Live is one of the best ways to do it. It's one of the quickest, easiest ways to create content, live video content where people can engage with you. They can ask questions. That content still lives on your profile afterwards. And it's so powerful. And then when you combine that with Facebook advertising, which I think is probably hands down one of the best things that someone could spend their money on when it comes to social media advertising, Facebook is still probably number one on my book.
Yeah, no, and obviously we're a huge proponent of Facebook and the ability to reach your audience. And I know there's so much talk around organic reach and how difficult it is as a business to be able to gain access to your audience. But you're right. When it's all said and done, there are just so many tools that do give you that opportunity to still get out there, to still reach your audience, to still interact with them and share in a way that meets so many different people exactly where they're at. So, as you said, it could be just a variety of content from your latest article that you wrote, those blog posts you were talking about, to images, to Facebook Live and using video. And if those that are listening here today have not connected with you yet, I totally encourage everybody to check out Katie and her use of anything videos. So YouTube, Periscope, Facebook Live, you name it, she practices what she preaches. So yeah, no, and that's a big deal to us as well, that you're out there eating that dog food and doing what you're sharing with other people has worked within your business.
Absolutely. And one other thing I'll just mention, actually two quick things, if you don't mind, really quick on Facebook. One thing, and I'm not paid to say this by any means, but Post Planner has some really awesome content for Facebook. And I have to say, whenever I'm looking for something really unique and creative, and if I don't have a lot of time to find something great, just a big shout out to what you guys are doing, because I think obviously with everything that you're doing, there's so much great content there. So I just had to give a plug because I think the content is amazing. I don't know how you do it.
Well, it is all about simplifying your life, and that again is the balance of finding that system where you don't have to spend 20 hours a day managing and monitoring your social channels, that you can use that automation and moderation that we talk so much about and be able to go find that proven content, get it into that plan like you're going to talk about, so that you can share it across those social channels. But again, get some of your life back and not feel like all of your time goes to creating and curating content.
Yeah, definitely. So Twitter, I love Twitter also. Twitter is one of those social networks that I still think, even in 2016, that people still have a lot of questions about. I was just chatting this weekend about it with my dad and teaching him Twitter. And, and I think one thing that's still great about Twitter is that Twitter is still one of the few social networks that, for the most part, is really in real time. I was just sharing this with a friend the other day. I said, if you want to find out something that's happening right now, in real time, Twitter by far is still, in my opinion, one of the best places to find that. Because when you go on Facebook, you might see things that happened 3 hours ago or yesterday morning or last night. But Twitter is one of the few social networks that's still, for the most part, pretty true to real time, which is really exciting. The other thing I think is a big opportunity for anyone, especially if they're newer to Twitter, is the opportunity to connect with things that you're interested in. Right. So I'll just use my dad as an example. He's a huge sports buff. He loves, college baseball and college basketball and, the NFL and things like that. And, he was thrilled that he realized that he could connect with, sports bloggers and reporters for some of his favorite sports teams. And just on a personal level, I think that kind of access to the media, to influencers, to people that we normally would not be friends with. We wouldn't be friends with these people on Facebook, right? That would be creepy. But Twitter, it's completely acceptable. And I know for myself, it's really allowed access to media, to PR opportunities that I wouldn't have had elsewhere. And I think it's an amazing opportunity to make those connections, as well as drive traffic back to your website. Twitter moves so fast. And so, I know for us, every time we publish a blog post, it'll get pushed out to Facebook, a couple times. But for Twitter, that sucker's going to get tweeted 10, 15, 20, multiple times.
Lives on.
Right. It lives on. And obviously, we're not tweeting it 20 times in one day. We're not going to be obnoxious about it. But because it moves so fast, it's still such a great opportunity to drive traffic to your website. So, my opinion with Twitter, like I said, great place to connect with the media, great place to connect with influencers, but also if you're creating any kind of content, blog content, Facebook Live content, maybe you're a podcaster, whatever it is, whatever your pillar piece of content is, I personally think Twitter's a big part of your strategy to drive traffic back to your website, back to your content. And then, of course, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not as exciting as Snapchat. It's not as fun as Facebook, but it's still a really, really important place to be. It's that professional place online. And for a lot of professionals, a lot of entrepreneurs, it has become kind of this set it and forget it network where you set it up a long time ago and maybe you haven't done a whole lot with it since. But it's really important with your personal profile as well as your business profile on LinkedIn to make sure that's up to date. You want to make sure you've got an updated photo, that your contact information is available. And one thing that I think is really unique about LinkedIn is that you can publish articles within the LinkedIn network, which I think is a really, really great opportunity. So, whether you are new to blogging or maybe you've been, creating content for some time, to be able to actually publish a post on LinkedIn, and this is free. This is just part of the free, profile that you receive with LinkedIn. When you can publish a post on LinkedIn, it's a great place to, again, establish your credibility, generate, potential leads, business, and just, again, sort of position yourself as that thought leader. So definitely an important place to be. And the other thing I'll mention too about LinkedIn, which a lot of people don't realize, is you can add photos, you can add videos. So if you've got some great photos of yourself and maybe in action, working with a client, or you've got some great videos that are on YouTube, add those to your LinkedIn profile, really beef that up. And it's a great place when someone's Googling you, your LinkedIn profile is one of the first things that comes up. So just a couple important things there. Okay, are we ready for some secrets, Rebekah?
Super ready. Yes, because I think what you've led us through is where we need to consider being, what we need to think about as far as the social networks, where our audience is, what we enjoy, and now comes the big heavy part, right? Of okay, now I actually have to post something.
Right. Exactly.
Wait a second, where does all that content come from?
Exactly. What do you mean? I have to write something? I have to create something? Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so the first thing is systems. I think systems are so important. You really need a system. or your best laid plans will go astray. And I'm a big believer in keeping it simple. It doesn't have to be, a 10-page spreadsheet. I have used probably every system under the sun, as I'm sure you have, Rebekah.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just simple. Simple is key. We use things like Google Documents so I can share with myself and my marketing person and my assistant. We use our Google Calendar. We use a couple other simple tools, but just having a system is key. And sometimes a system can start with a piece of paper, a notepad, because you got inspired by something. But having some sort of system and keeping it as simple as possible, I think, is really, really important.
I don't think that can be said enough because, yeah, you and I have a lot of fun dabbling in every tool out there, but the reality is most people don't have time to do that. And tools take time. There's that learning curve. There's the hours that it's going to spend to maybe set up templates or a workflow or something between you and your team. And I am just like you. We use Google Docs every single day, starting with just a sheet within Google. So much easier and easy to manage, and then you can scale up from there. But if everybody here today takes nothing else away, it's simplicity. You can be incredibly impactful on social media without this huge plan and tons of details and tons of tools that aren't budget friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, just starting. I think that's a big thing. And, once you're clear on your brand and your message, then you can really work on creating a calendar. So once you've taken that time to kind of brainstorm and think about, okay, what do we want to accomplish? What's our brand all about? Then you can really work on a calendar. And a calendar could literally be a calendar. And we use a combination of a Google Calendar, but we also use Google Spreadsheets, because I find that is a great way for us to look ahead. And our Google Spreadsheet is very simple. It's just a matter of topics and dates. And it's, very, very simple as far as, what do the next, 3 to 6 months look like? And I think the thing with the calendar that's important to understand, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, Rebekah, is that it's a moving force, right? So just like, the Today Show is going to have an editorial calendar. They're not going to wake up and go, gosh, what are we going to talk about today? If there's something that's breaking news, all bets are off, and that's what they talk about, right? So it's really the same thing with our blog. We'll think ahead and go, okay, let's think about timeliness. Okay, we're in, maybe the fall right now. We've got the holidays coming out. How is that going to impact what we want to talk about? And we'll sort of plug things in, but obviously it's a little bit of a moving target. So it's okay to be flexible and to change also.
Yeah, such a great point about being flexible around holidays or events. And I know you have a great freebie for us around this to help us simplify that whole calendar process and really get clear on what it is we want to post. And so much of what we post these days is great content from other people, curated content. And this is one of my absolute favorite tools that you mentioned here.
Yeah, I think curating great content is almost as important as creating great content. We talk a lot about, doing things like writing blog posts and creating graphics, but for most, small business owners, I mean, you can't just create content all day long. You have to curate great content. And one of my favorite tools is BuzzSumo. I think I was reluctant for a while to sign up for BuzzSumo because it wasn't free. There was a little bit of a cost involved. And I thought, oh gosh, I could find this information anywhere. And as I started using it, I found, this is by far the tool that I use almost probably every day because it's really, really robust. And when you can start to search the most shared articles based on your industry, it's really powerful. So if you're in the wine industry or in the mortgage industry, or you are, a hairdresser or whatever your business is, when you can go into that and search, not just search, general articles, but things that are the most shared, that's going to help you tremendously. So when you post that to Facebook, well, gosh, this is already a trending topic, right? This is going to be really, something that's really, really valuable. So that's probably one of my favorite tools to share. What are things that are trending? You can add in different search terms, and it, again, just kind of helps get your name out there, but by finding content that's relevant to you and your brand.
Well, and it just goes hand in hand with exactly what Post Planner was built for, which is being able to come in and find content that has been proven. So our algorithm goes out and it takes a look at all of this content, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, or it's an RSS feed like the feed to your blog, Katie, and it's going to take a look at how popular has that content been? How has it already performed? And we have a scoring system, so you could just quickly and easily look at how many stars that content has, and you can say 4 or 5 stars, so the maximum amount of stars, that performed really well. And so it puts predictability into your content performance, and then it also simplifies that going out there and binging around the web trying to find great content. Instead, you just have all of this content in one location that just what you were talking about. You could search by keyword or phrase or industry or niche or whatever it is, and then just drop it right down into your queue and schedule that out to go across social media. So the idea behind both of these tools is to make it just super easy for you to find exactly what you're looking for in a third of the time that it might be taking you currently.
I love that. Well, and that's the name of the game. I mean, time is all we have. So, and that's
Exactly.
I am such a proponent of that. And I'll talk more about that at the end with my academy and everything. But it's just time is all we have. So if we can be the most effective, especially when it comes to social media, it makes a huge difference. So, and that kind of ties in nicely for this next slide, because we're talking about having a system for not just curating, but also creating great content and knowing what kind of content you're going to create. So we talked a little bit about this already, but created content could be a number of different things. It could be blog posts, either on your own site, which personally I think is really kind of the best way to do it. That way you're driving traffic to your site. Although I don't think Facebook's going away anytime soon, we never know what will be the future of Facebook or Twitter, any of our social networks. But having the blog posts on your own site, I think, is always preferred. But there's also great sites like Medium. Medium.com is a great tool to create blog content. It's really, really user friendly. You can create a free account with Medium just by using, if you have Twitter, you can use your Twitter login credential. Or LinkedIn, as I mentioned, you can go on LinkedIn, log in, and there's no cost to that. You can publish a blog post right within LinkedIn, which is great because it stays right on your LinkedIn profile. It can also then get shared out, to your email list or any of your social networks. And then, of course, created content could also be video. So it could be, DIY short videos, with our, iPhones in the air or using a selfie stick, or longer form professionally edited videos. But I think especially with video, there's so many great opportunities from doing Facebook Live or Periscopes to doing those sort of short, quick videos. And ultimately, when it comes to created content, I always think it's important to think about what are the questions that you get asked all the time. And when you can talk about something so easily, it just comes so natural to you, and you might think, gosh, doesn't everybody know this? If you've ever said that, doesn't everybody know how to do this? I could almost guarantee that they don't. And that is a great piece of content for a blog, a video, a Facebook Live, because it's, it just speaks to your expertise. And of course, live video, we've touched on it a few times, but Periscope, which is owned by Twitter, and it's only getting, more and more robust. You can actually broadcast right within Twitter, which is great. And Facebook Live, those are really kind of the two top platforms to consider, but this is such a moving target. Live video is really kind of taking the world by storm right now. And I think, for a lot of us, I know myself included, I really love live video because there's something about hearing and seeing somebody live. It's a pretty incredible experience to be able to, as people are watching you and commenting, to be able to engage in real time. and honestly, to be able to create content that's not perfect. I think a lot of people have been hesitant on video, even still, because we don't like how we look or how we sound, or we don't know how to edit it or how to make it look great. But live video sort of takes that feeling of it has to be perfect out of the equation, which is really great. And then graphics, graphics, this is something I think, Rebekah, you guys do an amazing job at, is creating great graphics, taking one piece of content, again, and sort of slicing and dicing it and making it look a couple different ways that are ideal for Instagram and maybe other social networks. And graphics, I think, are also really important for other content. If you have a blog, one mistake I see a lot of people make is they write a great blog post, but they forget a really great image. You've got to have a great image in your blog. That's the first thing that people see when you share it on Facebook or Pinterest or anywhere else. And making sure you've got graphics for videos, live video, things like that. So again, doesn't mean you have to be all things to all people, but picking a couple of those that really resonate with you and creating great content, I think makes a big difference. And then to extend the life of your content and to reach more people, considering repurposing your content on multiple platforms, this is like the secret sauce. This is where I get really fired up about. And I know, I have to say, I think I probably learned this probably firsthand from Rebekah, because Rebekah, you're like the queen of repurposing content.
It is definitely something we could talk about for days on end. Well, and as you look at the content obsessed, social network world that we live in these days, it's just critical to me that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel. And I think this really speaks to everything you just talked about with live video and images and blog posts. And that one blog post, I see you do this so often, where you take that one blog post and it becomes a tip on Instagram, or it becomes a snap, or it becomes a Periscope, where you break that down into maybe three of your points that you made in that article. So it's really thinking through how you can repurpose with purpose all of that content.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge believer that if you are taking the time to create that pillar piece of content, so whether it's a blog post or a video or podcast or whatever that might be, the big mistake that most people make is they write something, they create something, and they put it on Facebook once, they tweet it once, and then they say, no one is reading my blog, right? And it is all about taking that one piece of content and then repurposing it. So sharing it initially on your social networks, but then remembering, or maybe even putting on your calendar, 3 months later, 6 months later, if something is relevant today and it can be relevant 3 months from now or 6 months from now, there's no reason you can't, first of all, reshare that, retweet that out, reshare that on Facebook or any of your other social networks. But then, like you said, one of the things I've been really trying to be very intentional about, especially lately, is when I have a blog post, pulling out 2 or 3 tips, and that becomes an Instagram story. And I pull out another 2 or 3 tips, and that becomes a Snapchat story. And then I'll pull out another tip or 2, and that becomes a tweet. And so it's leveraging multiple networks, but still pointing back to that one piece of content. And I have to say, it's been a little thing that has made a huge difference, especially in the last 12 months with our business.
Well, and it keeps that content out there in front of a whole new audience over and over and over again. And if you are creating evergreen content that's going to be relevant a year from now, 2 years from now, there's no sense in doing what you talked about, which is kind of set it and forget it, or post it and forget it, and
Right.
never coming back to it.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, makes a big difference. So creating a blog calendar, I think, is really critical, especially looking at the next 3 months. If I don't have the next 3 months planned out, I'm always feeling a little bit of anxiety. So I know my team is listening to this webinar. They're probably smiling right now as I'm saying this, because I always get a little anxious, like, okay, we're gonna start planning ahead. But at least the next 3 months, and it just gives your content a roadmap. And like I said, we've tried a lot of different systems. For us, it's very simple. Honestly, like I mentioned earlier, we use a combination of a Google Calendar and Google Spreadsheets, and it's very, very simple. But just having a system in place, and what I think a lot of people struggle with is, well, what am I going to blog about? So I always recommend sitting down, closing out your computer, putting your phone down for 10 minutes, and just brainstorm and see if you can brainstorm a list of the questions people ask you all the time. And if you're unsure, look in your email, look at your sent emails, and what are those questions that you're getting asked that people are emailing you and asking you about. And that's a great place to start with blog content. And then also, look at things that might be relevant for your industry. So if you are, a tax professional, as you're coming into the spring, that might be, you're probably going to have some content leading up to that because that's really timely. For a lot of business owners, right, obviously, we've got the fall, we've got the holidays. And so thinking about, is there content that's timely, that's relevant to the time of year, not just a specific topic, but timely content. So you start to kind of brainstorm that. And after you've got a list of 20 or 30 topics, doesn't have to be perfect, then open up a Google Calendar or a spreadsheet and just start to kind of plug those in. And once you have started to create that, it makes a really big difference. The other thing I'll just mention about this is just get yourself on a schedule and stick to it. So if you plan to blog once a month, you plan to blog twice a month, once a month, there's no magic formula. It's just consistency. And I remember this when I first started blogging many moons ago. This is, I would say, the number one thing that I did right. I wasn't a very good writer. I look back at some of those early blog posts. I was like, oh, that was terrible. But what I did really well is I was consistent. I knew when I first started, I started blogging 3 times a week, which is kind of crazy, right, Rebecca, when you first start blogging to
That's a huge commitment.
I know. I'm like, what was I thinking? But now we've scaled it back. We just do it once a week. But just getting consistent, when that goes out, and then you start to get into a rhythm, and then it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, just like anything else, it makes it so much easier.
Well, and the more you do it, the better you get. We all have those scenarios where it's like, oh my goodness, did I actually post that?
Right.
But yeah, it becomes easier and easier, and you're going to be able to look back and think, oh wow, that felt so hard just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago. But having that plan, having that consistency, and just committing to it. My advice always is very similar to yours, Katie, where it becomes something in your calendar that's a non-negotiable. Yeah. It's just like any other commitment to your business that you're going to write, you're going to do it at this time. I find that we're all different in what time of day it works best. You could be a morning person, you could be an evening person. So it's finding your own groove and what works best for you.
Absolutely. And I'll just mention one last thing too about this is that the value of creating content over the course of time is that the leads that you get to your website all of a sudden become such great leads, right? You start to hear things like, I've been reading you for years. I feel like I know you, right? And like, regardless of what business you're in, those are the best kind of leads, right, to get, and those all come from blogging.
Yeah, well, and that's I think the lifelong benefit of all of that content that just does continue to live on and on and on, in that people, they hear your tone, your voice, and then as you start to do video, they're able to put a face with that. And so there's already that connection that by the time you meet, you are getting those comments that they already feel like they know you. So it's really taking that cold lead to a warm lead to a potential customer, client, and helping them make that educated decision in a way that just moves them effortlessly through your marketing funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I know we touched on this briefly, but again, deciding what day you'll publish, what content you'll publish, and when. And consistency is the name of the game. So for us, we publish a blog post every Wednesday. So I know by Tuesday night, I better have my act together, right? But getting that consistency makes a big difference for sure. And then promoting your own content. So I think a lot of times we think, well, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to spam people. Gosh, people will see this everywhere. We are in an age where we are just inundated with content, right? And just because you happen to be on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and wherever else you might be, doesn't mean everyone else is. So you want to think about promoting your own content and remembering you are your own best promoter. You don't have to be, annoying or anything like that, but get the word out. And again, I would recommend getting the word out, consistently and over the course of time. And as, Rebecca and I mentioned earlier, if you have a piece of content that's evergreen, there's no reason you can't promote it today. And then also 2 weeks from now or a month from now or 6 months from now, and be your own best promoter. I've said this time and time again, if you've ever heard me talk about social media, and I know, Rebekah, we're totally on the same page with this, and that it's never ever a one-way promotional only place to be. I know we've talked a lot about promotion in this webinar, but when it's done right, it's really a two-way street. And, for us, one of the things I try to do each and every week is think about who can I connect with one-to-one, right? So if I write a blog post, before it goes out on social media, before it gets blasted out to my big email database, I always think about who are the two or three people I could send this to first. Who could I reach out to and say, hey, you know what? I was just thinking about you. We just published this. I wanted to make sure you saw this first. And when you take that action of one-to-one and really, you're really intentional about the fact that it's not just a place to broadcast, that it is that two-way street, it makes a big difference. I mean, I've met some of my dearest friends because of social media. And I know, Rebekah, you could agree with that as well.
Yeah, well, and it comes down to that personal touch and taking that one additional step that most people aren't gonna take. And we all know that's the difference between those that are just ridiculously successful and those that continue to limp along. And it's because they're willing to go the extra mile.
Absolutely.
And I think connecting content to the right people is so powerful.
Yep, absolutely. Makes a big difference.
All right, so we're going to have to do some kind of rapid fire 10 lessons.
We'll talk about it.
Just so everybody that's here live knows, we really respect your time. We've got 10 minutes left, and this has taken us a little bit longer than we anticipated because, Katie, I should have known better that you're a wealth of information, so much to share. So we'll try to move through these, but we might be a little late, so apologies. If you do need to leave, we will be getting you the replay, so don't worry, you'll still catch it all.
No
all
problem.
right, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, so first of all, be a storyteller, and I think you have that amazing gift, but not everybody does. And so I think you need to start at that beginning, right? What are the stories you can share? And you've touched on this a little bit. What are those questions your audience or your customers are asking, and what stories can you share that better describe that situation or give them better context around a situation that will help them make that decision? And we're both just huge fans of using your blog, using your graphics, using video to help you tell that story.
Absolutely. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, we also love humor and entertainment, right?
Of course. We like to be entertained.
Yeah, and we hear this all the time. My brand just isn't, it's not funny, it's serious. But I would always say there's room for humor. There's room for entertainment. And especially when you look at sites like Facebook, so much of your audience is looking to be entertained. So you do have to find that balance within your brand of how can you inject a little bit of humor, show a little bit of that side of your personality, and let people connect to that side of your brand personality, because I think you're missing that chance to create those deeper, more meaningful connections that come when you have a good belly laugh together, or there's just something goofy that happens that you have to share. I love those stories. I think you're probably the same way, Katie.
Absolutely. Yeah, just looking for those moments that you can just share.
Well, and you talk about this too, about being true to yourself and not having to necessarily monitor yourself all the time.
Right. Exactly. I think you just, don't be scared of offending someone. I think there's that fine line of, obviously we don't want to, be too polarizing, obviously, but at the same time, have fun. It's okay to have an opinion. No one wants to be vanilla, right? So embrace who you are. And I think, people will resonate with that. Like attracts like. So be true to who you are. I think that's important.
I love that. Emojis, huge fans of emojis,
Yes.
obviously. And there has been so much research done around this. In fact, our friends over at Simply Measured found the huge increase in engagement just on Facebook alone when you use emojis. So
Yeah.
I think they're conversational. They can say what maybe you can't say in text.
Hmm.
They just take that conversation to a whole other level.
Yeah, it's just a little thing that I think resonates with everybody for sure.
Yeah, that exclamation point sometimes on your post.
Yep.
And then you've talked about this too, paying attention to what your clients are asking. And I love your old school idea, probably because I am kind of old school, about carrying a notepad around. And whether it's an app or a notepad, I think it's critical that you have somewhere you can always capture information.
Hmm.
And then it syncs to if you're using an app like Evernote, and then if you're using a notepad, making sure that you set time within your schedule so you can take all of that and get it into a system like you've been talking about where you can extract that information and actually use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just being aware of those questions, I think, makes a big difference.
Mm. Evoking emotions, another incredible, I think, powerful tool where we can create that humanized content that shows we're paying attention to our audience,
Hmm.
that we really understand what their needs are, what they're going through within their lives, and looking at what those emotions are that are bringing your audience to you and what's going to help them take that next step with you as well.
Yep, absolutely.
And creating that experience around your brand with everything you do. I think we get caught up in that buy here, click here, that salesy marketing pitch that we've all become accustomed to, instead of just thinking about what is the experience you want to create around your brand. What is that feeling you want people to take away when they leave your Facebook page or they leave your Twitter profile or they watch a video? And that's that moment where you have that chance to really connect people to the reality of who you are and why you care about helping them accomplish whatever it is you're trying to help them with.
Absolutely. And when you create content, it helps tell that story for sure.
Yeah. Time management tools, we've touched on this a little bit, but time is definitely your most precious resource. So tapping into those tools and making an effective use of your time. And some of the tools that are our favorites, beyond what we've already talked about, are there's so many free tools out there that, oh my gosh, just the information you can glean from them that you can turn back into content like Facebook Insights, Facebook Pages Manager. I love Mention. That's probably an oldie but a goodie. It's been around. Social Mention, Google Alerts, just so many different ways to keep yourself up to date and in the know.
Absolutely.
And then also, I know we're both big fans of Twitter lists, so being able to curate content through Twitter lists. We talked about the notepad, and then I love your last one here. It made me giggle a little bit.
Absolutely. Just being aware. I think sometimes we think, oh my gosh, that took me all day. Well, what challenge yourself. What can you get done in 10 minutes when you don't have 27 windows open? It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And there's some great tools like Rescue Time out there for exactly this. There's, the Pomodoro method that they've got timers. My favorite is just my iPhone.
Yes, me too.
I'll just time myself to see how quickly I can move through something. And you can make it a game almost with yourself of how long is it taking me to get this task done? And can I better myself? Where can I make some improvements? So I think that is it seems so silly, doesn't it? But it really comes down to our overall productivity.
That's true. Think about how much you get done the day before vacation, right? So
Exactly. Yes, when time is of the essence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're coming to the end here, and you're going to help us build out our great content calendar. Woo-hoo!
Yes, we're going to jam through this for sure. Me too. So yeah, the first thing is just brainstorm content that fits your brand and fits your niche. So thinking through, do you have an online brand persona? And that's just really a fancy way of saying, are you casual? Are you serious? Are you fun? Are you professional? How do you say things, right? Are there a lot of exclamation points? Are there emojis? And what issues do your customers need to be addressed? So that's really kind of first and foremost, is a big brainstorming session. The second thing is obviously once you've brainstormed your personas and your personalities, you want to create a calendar. I certainly don't believe in scheduling things, farther out in advance. I don't believe in set it and forget it, but looking at the next 2 to 4 weeks for social media. For me, I like to sit down, generally it's every Friday, and we look at the next, typically 3 to 5 days, sometimes further out, and scheduling out some of our social media content. And of course, large events can be scheduled as soon as you've locked down a date. And I do have a link on here, which I'm sure we'll probably send out maybe through email, but
we will.
Yeah, thank you. So this link right here, this is something, our content grid that we've created for many, many years. It's helped literally thousands of business owners, just help them get their arms around how to create a calendar and how to create a social media strategy. So if you go to katielance.com/content grid, it'll just ask for your email and then it'll get sent right to you. It's just a free, it's about an 8-page PDF on how to lay out your content strategy. And the third tip is to test your content. So once you brainstorm your content, once you've laid it out, once you've tried it out, you want to test it and see, does your content match, your content marketing brand profile? Is it interesting? Is it engaging? Does my content encourage Facebook likes, shares, and comments? And again, just like anything else, it's a little bit of a moving target. So what may be true today may not be true in 6 months from now. You just really want to monitor and make sure that what you're posting in your scheduling right now is still consistent with what you want to accomplish with social media. And then the last tip, dun, 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 drum roll.
Wish I had some music for you.
I know, right? Is keep an eye on your surroundings. So, check on the current trends to take advantage of news stories. Watch your content analytics. Watch for movements of your competitors. With Facebook, you can actually set up what's called a watch list on Facebook, where you can actually incognito watch some of your competitors. I have a few of our competitors listed, and they don't know that they're listed, but you can watch to see what they're sharing. You can do that on Twitter also, where you can set up a private list of your competitors, and just keeping an eye on what's going on. And again, knowing that as much as you plan out, just realize that it's a little bit of a moving target, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that feature, and I think it's a very underutilized one. It's one we just recently talked about on a webinar, and to be able to track your performance, see exactly how you're doing, but more than that, see what post really, really well, what audience responding to. It's not that idea of I'm just going to go out and swipe all their content and make my page exactly the same. It's more about doing that homework.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep, and you'll find some interesting insights of frequency and tone of voice and things like that.
So now that you've kind of taken us through this whole process of where do we spend our time, how do we find the content, how do we put together a content calendar to really manage all of this, now it's tracking and measuring. This is probably that one big piece that so many people still struggle with, is knowing, how do I know if what I'm doing is actually successful? How do I know if it's, hitting the mark with my audience? So walk us through some different ways real quick here on how we can identify that.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is setting goals. So, you want to set your goals and objectives so you know what factors you need to measure on social. So especially when you're, initially doing that social media audit, like we talked about in the beginning, I love to track your traffic. So if you've got Google Analytics set up, this is sort of an easy thing to do to see where's your traffic at, where's it coming from, and then try to set a somewhat realistic goal for 6 months from now or 12 months from now. If you want to increase your traffic by 25% or maybe 30 or 40%, obviously you're gonna have to put a lot of work and content and get a strategy together for that. But looking at where you're at right now and then setting those goals, so you can actually measure them. And you can also set goals for likes and followers. Not that that's the end all and be all, but it is an easy way to track, where you're at today and where you'd like to be 6 months or a year from now. And the second thing is to track campaigns. So as part of your social media marketing, you're going to need to keep track of costs and time spent, as well as the campaigns and the activities that you launch. So, obviously you're going to be looking at your cost. We talked a little bit about Facebook advertising. What does your budget look like for that? Are there certain campaigns that you're going to be running on Facebook and Instagram combined? Or, are those also getting carried onto Twitter or other social platforms? So keeping not just track of the actual content, but costs, time spent, to really get an accurate measure of what is that return on investment, I think is really important. And then the third thing is to be able to report your findings. So being able to report your results, especially if you're someone who's in the position, maybe you're a marketing manager or social media manager, and your job is to report to your boss or someone else about your results, or even if you're a small business owner, being able to have an easy way to report your results and determine the appropriate time frame for reporting. Maybe it's weekly, monthly, yearly. It really depends. I think for a lot of small business owners, at least at a minimum, looking at your analytics on a weekly basis is great. But then actually tracking it at least once a month. There's something really powerful about being able to look at a spreadsheet and say, wow, a year ago, we were here on Facebook and now we're here, right? And just being able to see that growth, I think is really powerful. And again, keeping it simple. Maybe it's just a simple Google spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And the fourth thing is then reviewing your results and then resetting your goals. So when you start, when you have the stats from your campaign, you can then calculate that ROI, and you can use those findings to set new goals and objectives. And honestly, sometimes when you first set those goals, I remember when I first started doing this, I was like, I don't know, what goal should we set? And it was literally like, okay, that sounds like a good number. And you just start there. You start with something that you think, okay, let's put it out there. And then the more you do it, the more you'll get a sense of, okay, that was realistic. Or, what, we could have stretched ourselves in the next 6 months, let's do this. So you just have to start. I think a lot of times we suffer from analysis paralysis.
Yes, indeed. I think you said that multiple times. You just have to start.
You just have to do it.
Uh-huh.
Yes. It makes a big difference.
All right. Well, I don't know how you got through all of that in 65 minutes.
You talk really fast.
I know. I was a little worried. I just, like I said, I should have known better that you had so much amazing information to share with us here today, and I am so grateful you got to share this time with us, and that you also are making some things available. I know you already talked about the content calendar. We just recently put together a ebook. Simply Measured went through and did a whole analysis of our last year on Facebook, and what they found is that we grew by 193%.
Wow.
And we did it 98% organically. So only 2% of our marketing was ad spend,
Wow.
which to me, is so incredibly important. As I said, we're just talking about organic reach going down, 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 and there are ways that you can still reach your audience without having a huge brand budget. So I definitely want to make available to you today our free download of our ebook. You can find that at bit.ly/FB for Facebook Growth Plan. And that outlines every single step we took, everything we did over the last year to increase our growth on Facebook. And so you can take all of that and put that into your strategy and your plan that Katie shared so much about here today. And then, Katie, I know you have some goodies for us too.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we kind of alluded to the fact that we have a really exciting academy community that we've created. I've discovered just over the last few years in consulting with companies large and small that there's still a lot of questions when it comes to social media. And I'm a big believer that social media is a marathon and not a sprint. And so we created our Get Social Smart Academy. It's an online learning portal. It's a membership site, and we've got just hundreds of great people who are part of our academy. And our academy is basically designed for the small business owner, the real estate professional, the entrepreneur who needs to figure out Facebook ads, or they need to figure out, should I be on Snapchat, or how do I actually use Twitter? And they can log into getsocialsmart.com. They can sign up on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis, and they have access to literally hundreds of videos, exclusive content, exclusive webinar material, and also an amazing community of other business owners who are just helping each other get smarter about social media. So we're really excited, and we're excited to be able to partner with Post Planner on this and be able to offer really great savings. So for anyone who signs up during this webinar, they can actually sign up and save $30 a month if they sign up on the monthly membership, or they can sign up on the annual rate and save $300 off of their yearly membership. So the promo codes are right down here. They would just need to go to getsocialsmart.com. Getsocialsmart.com, and once they check out, they can put in the promo code PostPlannerMonthly, and that'll save them $30 off forever, by the way. That'll lock you in. So if you really love it, you want to stay forever, it'll lock you in that rate, or you can sign up on the annual basis, Post Planner yearly, and that'll save you $300 off your annual membership. And there's no contracts or anything required. We just are really, really passionate about being able to help and serve more entrepreneurs and more small business owners, just helping people get smarter about how to use social media.
Being intentional. I think that is the word that I always think of when I think of you. As long as we've known each other, which, gosh, I'm not even sure how long that's been at this point, but you have been intentionally using social media within your business for as long as we've known each other, and it really shows in everything that you've written and everything you've done. But I love more than anything that your heart really is, in every single bit of your academy. It's evident how much you care about the people that you're working with and the community that you've grown. And I think that's one other important aspect of all of this that we don't talk as much about, because we tend to get in our own silos within the marketing world, and especially online, and having a community to tap into, to draw from on those days when you're feeling less than creative, or you're frustrated, or something just isn't working, is invaluable, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And honestly, it's probably the part about our academy I love the most. We have this amazing private Facebook group where our members will go in and they'll say, I just put this on my Facebook page. Does this look okay? Or I just published my first video ever. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. What do you guys think? And it's so fun to see this, this community helping each other. So I love it.
Well, and where we just have that perfect partnership, I think, is you're out there, you're educating, you are helping everybody get social smart, and then everything they learn, all of that content that they're creating, they can come over to Post Planner. And to everybody that's here today, go to love.postplanner.com. That's love, LOVE.postplanner.com, and you can test drive it. Take a look, check it out, kick the tires. You get a free account with Post Planner, so love.postplanner.com, that you can use in tandem with everything that you've learned here today, and really put your social smarts to the test.
I love it. That's awesome.
Well,
So
Katie, thank you again from the bottom of our hearts here at Post Planner for being here with us today, for just always giving so freely of everything that you've learned over the years, and for teaching us how to put a plan in place and how to be strategic and smart about our use of social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I would just love, anyone who's like I said, small business owner, real estate professional, entrepreneur, if you're tired of spinning your wheels when it comes to social media, you're looking for, for some guidance, I would love for you to be a part of the academy. So it's just been a pleasure to be here with you, Rebekah, and just big thanks to you and Post Planner. I can't say enough great things about what you guys are doing. I think you've got such a great product and a great system. So it's just definitely been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the feeling is mutual. So look forward to our next event, whatever that looks like together.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, take care. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.